When Helen Bert was hired on September 29, 1971, she arrived at a Providence College campus that was experiencing major change. As female students were being admitted to campus for the first time, it came with a need for athletic opportunities, and Helen was chosen for the job.
Helen came to Providence College in 1971. Women had just come onto campus, and Dave Gavitt recruited her and gave her the title of recreational director and PE director.
I was quite young when Helen was hired by my dad, but I knew her my whole life and saw how their relationship developed over time to be very dear friends. A challenging job when she was hired here at Providence in 1971, integrating women's athletics into an all-male college at the time.
She basically came at ground zero. A couple months later, she's an excellent coach herself. She's recruited a basketball team as well as a tennis team, and she sets up intramurals.
The athletic director at the time was Dave Gavitt, a man who would later become a prominent figure in college basketball history and also the architect of the Big East Conference. In 1971, he was just starting the job, and he brought Helen on board to assist him.
Dave recruited her here because he wanted somebody who could move this program forward.
If you look at Helen's career as an educator, I think he probably saw in her the ability to take what she had done so successfully as a coach and as an athletic director at the high school level and apply that at the collegiate level, and to bring that kind of educational spirit, that kind of collaboration. He
was definitely committed to women's sports being successful, because when you hire Miss Bert, you know she's going to be persistent. She's going to be, fully in, and he knew he would be challenged.
There were some challenges ahead of the women's programs during those early years. But with someone like Helen Bert there to advocate on their behalf, she set the programs and their student athletes up for future success, both on and off the playing field.
When we came on campus to a obviously traditional male campus, there were 300 of us, there were 2,000 men. They weren't sure quite what to do with all these women on campus. Mrs. Bert came, and the first thing she did was create a women's center.
Really the beginning of where do women go to hang out, not just for athletes.
You didn't have to be athletic to go there. There was just this wonderfully warm place where you could go, and it could be all women just talking about how it was to be at a men's college.
We would have a little get together after all the home games for the student athletes, our parents, family.
Mrs. Bert, for most of us, became that person and provided that place where we could go and figure it out together.
During a time when women's athletics was being built from the ground up, Helen worked tirelessly with administrators on all sides of campus to get what she wanted: a level playing field.
She was a tremendous negotiator. In 1971, there were very few women who were in positions of leadership. So for Helen to come on, she had to be an incredible negotiator.
Helen Bert was a different type of woman as far as she was committed to women's athletics, committed to just seeing women be very successful.
And I know this will sound like the dark ages, but she would say to us, "All right, ladies, put on your skirts. We're going to go see Father." And that meant that we were going to go there with a plan and articulate our needs and wants in a polite, respectful way, but we weren't going to leave until we got what we wanted.
Just being able to help us get the resources that we needed, even if it was just simply the purchase of a field hockey stick through the Providence College Athletic Department, or the pair of shoes that you needed. She was just trying to put us as student athletes in the best position to succeed.
Got what she wanted. That's what made all the programs grow to the level that they grew to. What the women's programs have achieved here in the last 20 years is part of Mrs. Bert's legacy. There's no doubt about that.
While Helen was working with administrators and coaches, she never lost sight of the athletes. The young women who were leaving home for the first time and playing sports on a new campus always had someone in their corner.
She was not only a pioneer, but she was an incredible, thoughtful person.
She advocated to make sure that I could actually fit in and felt comfortable here. I was the only black player on the team for 4 years here at Providence College. She was very aware that, especially my freshman year, there was going to be some struggles. She always checked in. How are you doing, Bert? How are you feeling? And that meant a lot to me, to know that somebody cares and realizes that, you know, you may be struggling. Some days it was a struggle, and to have someone just to talk to.
Well, she had an incredible passion for athletics and for people. She was able to look at the whole picture and not get focused on just what we didn't have, but she could see the good in what we had, even though it was limited and there was so much growth to be had. But she also had the vision of where she wanted her sports to go and her program to go.
One of the first programs that got started was basketball. There were two of us, Renee Wellman and I, who we had the gym every Tuesday and Thursday from 5 to 7. There would be 100 guys pressed up against the Alumni Hall gym that were not happy that these two women were playing basketball for an hour and a half or 2 hours. But we knew that if we ever stopped coming, if there weren't at least always one woman in the gym, we would probably lose that privilege. So we relentlessly came and did full court layups by the hour. And Mrs. Bert was always there to remind us that we better keep coming. Now I'm so proud of, where the women's program is now. It would never have happened without Mrs. Bert's sheer determination. She was the lady from the Bronx, and she walked into a room and she commanded presence. And that is why we were able to move very quickly towards a great program.
Britt King, a Hall of Fame basketball player here in the 80s, has a special connection to Helen Bert that displays the level of support and care that she provided for the student athletes.
My mother never had me baptized, and she didn't have my brothers baptized because she wanted us to choose what religion we wanted to be. And even though I went to a Catholic high school, I decided once I came here to Providence College that I wanted to be baptized Catholic. So I needed someone to be my godmother, and I asked Miss Bert, and she agreed to it. So a lot of people don't realize Miss Bert is actually my godmother. She actually helped me, took me through the steps to be confirmed through my confirmation and, being baptized Catholic.
Aside from her personality, there was something else about Mrs. Bert that has stuck with people who knew her all these years.
Anybody that knew Miss Bert, the one thing they could tell you that was most memorable was her perfume.
She always wore a certain perfume.
And to this day, I still can smell it. It smelled like roses.
When you worked in the athletic department, where it's otherwise pretty sweaty and smelly at times, you always knew where Helen had been.
And any room Miss Bert had been in, within 5 minutes, if you came in that room, you knew Miss Bert had been there.
She was always so well-dressed, always presented herself so well, and her beautiful perfume either preceded or succeeded her when you walked in or out of her room.
Helen Bert passed away on September 30th, 2002, but her impact on the people she touched is felt today.
I think she was a visionary. She really saw before any of us did as coaches, saw where each program could go and what they could achieve. I don't think I would have been as successful as a coach unless I had somebody like Mrs. Bert behind me from the very beginning. I was young at the time, but she had high expectations. She pushed me in my early years of coaching that got the program to a completely different level.
Just Helen Bert was always there. She was always out on the field watching us play, and she was always going to support you as a female student athlete.
She had that presence. She had an incredible presence. When she walked in a room, you knew Helen Bert was there. She'd light up the room. She'd be engaging with everybody that was in the room. If you didn't know them, she would introduce herself and become part of her inner circle. Just an incredible person.
Personally, there's been very few people who have been as affecting for me as Mrs. Bert. Now I'm a racket and paddle sports director at CYMCA in Damascotta, Maine, and I often think I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for her. She taught me and every woman I think that has been in touch with her that you could do anything you wanted as long as you put your skirt on and ask nicely.
But she was definitely a special person, and she definitely unforgettable.
For Friars.com, I'm Jen Rainierson.